Reluctant Fundamentalist, and the title is really an interesting one, but the reluctance, it's not really a study of fundamentalism as we understand it, only of terror or of religion or becoming a fundamentalist. It's also an examination and a falling out of love with the economic fundamentalism, the fundamentalism of money or capital.
But there's a part of the movie where he is, as you say, eagerly embracing America and eagerly embracing Wall Street and become a kind of master of the universe. And then 9/11 happens, and he happens to be out of the country. And he flies back, and suddenly, for the first time, he realizes, and the realization dawns on him slowly, my God, they're not looking at me like every other person. They're looking at me differently because I have brown skin and a funny name.
Exactly.
And that is the moment where he begins to realize, I'm actually not as integrally part of this society as I thought I was.
Exactly, and perhaps he can never be, you know. I mean, the film is really made because of that. It's not otherwise. I mean, I live in this country for half my life. I come from the subcontinent half my life, like Mohsin himself. And what is really disturbing to me is how the conversation that we have here about the subcontinental world or anything to do with the Islamic world is always a monologue, not a conversation. We never really hear it from that side of things.
You say that, you know, when Americans look at the world of Islam, they don't understand that those are ordinary people, they have their lives. One of the things you do try to do in the movie is to convey that reality so that you see Riz Ahmed's family in Lahore, and they're a very kind of normal upper middle class family that is partly fascinated by America, you know, but has reservations, but mostly is engaged in its day-to-day life.
His father is a poet. They used to have money, now they don't have money, but they have class, and they're not worried about it. But the young man is worried. He wants to go to America, he wants to make a fortune, he wants to bring his family back to this exalted society that they used to belong to. But the father is not concerned. He writes his poems and he lives in his world. Yeah.
Do you think that the appeal of fundamentalism, of Islamic fundamentalism, is that it is in some way a kind of coherent alternative to this, to a Western idea of money and success and things like that, that it seems to pull at some other chords that people have? Because he says, Riz Ahmed says, the hero says at one point, you know, that when 9/11 happened, I had a flicker of awe, even, you know, that people could pull this off, and you know what that suggests is that there was some pull there for him.
I mean, what we are suggesting and what we know is that the world is a really complicated place, and in looking at and presenting the humanity in both the worlds as complicatedly as we do, I want to be unflinching about the fact that, you know, the reaction to 9/11 was not always one way. People had different reactions to it. And as our hero says, yes, he felt a sense of awe at the audacity of this terrible act. But he asks his American friend, he says, but don't you feel anything when 100,000 people are killed equally in Baghdad or Afghanistan or Syria or any of the above? I mean, the terrible thing about what has happened in Boston is that Boston has now become another city that has been affected by the same terror. That is a global suffering. You know, the suffering has been so global, and now it has come in front of us, and that is what is shocking people, and it must shock people. But this terror, this suffering happens in any day, in any city in the world, you know, in our part of the world, and that suffering is caused by a cycle of events. I mean, we have to understand that wherever we are simply a part of the world. You know, we are not the center of the world. And I think that's very important. That's what led me to make The Reluctant Fundamentalist, because unless we tell our own stories, no one else will tell them.
Well, it's a terrific and very moving movie.
Thank you so much for it.
Mira Nair, pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.